Hundreds of thousands returning from their mainland holidays. Myanmar sees its first general election in 5 years. And Canada pledges more funds for the Ukrainian government. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. The Immigration Department said about 296,000 travelers arrived in Hong Kong via different control points as of 4 p.m. on the final day of the Christmas holiday. Memo reports.
Holidays often go by quickly. West Kowloon Station was filled with travelers on Sunday. Many of them were locals who returned from their Christmas trips up north. The Immigration Department estimated that the number of inbound passengers through land boundary control points will peak on the last day of the holiday, reaching about 695,000 passengers. Some residents said they wanted to avoid the return crowd, so they took a direct train to arrive in Hong Kong at an earlier hour. Those returning can also be found at Shan Shui MTR station. Asking residents about their reasons for choosing the mainland as the holiday destination, most of them said the spending was cheaper across the border and there's simply more entertainment compared to Hong Kong. Immigration Department expected roughly 11.52 million travelers would pass through the city's sea, land and air control points over the Christmas and New Year period. Memos 9, TVB News.
Financial Secretary Paul Chan says that over the past year, both prices and transaction volumes in stock and property markets have risen in tandem. He estimates Hong Kong's economic growth will accelerate from 2.5% in 2024 to 3.2% this year, with future development focused on finance, intertech, and trade. Paul Chan says the city's economy this year has made steady progress with a joint effort of Beijing, the SAR government, and various sectors, enabling them to overcome external uncertainties. He adds that asset markets have continued to improve, capital inflows have remained strong, visitor arrivals have risen, and both exports and fixed capital investment have performed well. The economic growth will likely pick up to 3.2% this year, buoyed mainly by export. Hong Kong is ranked first globally in initial public offering fundraising, with proceeds exceeding $270 billion as of mid-December. An average daily turnover of the stock market reached nearly $260 billion in the first 11 months of this year. Chan says the government will actively expand commodities trading and speed up cultivation of AI as a core industry, while staying highly vigilant against potential black swan and great rhino risks. Secretary for Innovation, Technology and Industry Sun Dong says once the cross-border bridge at the Hotel Hong Kong Shenzhen Innovation and Technology Park is completed, researchers and workers there will be able to enter the Hong Kong section with ease and travel to the city's urban areas. He also revealed that the government is in talks with leading enterprises over the possibility of building a national manufacturing base in Yuen Long. The Hong Kong section of the Hotel Hong Kong Shenzhen Innovation and Technology Park has officially opened, with the first 3 buildings now in operation. More than 60 companies have already moved in. Speaking on the TVB program, Secretary for Innovation, Technology and Industry Sun Dong says around 1,400 people are currently working in the park. He expects the number to rise sharply next year once most companies complete their renovation works. At this stage, the government plans to introduce a pre-approved whitelist system, allowing biological samples such as blood products, as well as personnel to move between the 2 park zones under regulated arrangements.
We recognize that efficient cross-boundary flow of the anti-elements, such as people, data, biosample, and capital, is very important to improve the attractiveness of the Hotel Hong Kong Park. Okay, so in the past several years, we have spent a lot of time to explore these cross-boundary policy measures with mainland authorities. So now we have made a detailed implementation plan to ensure it's a smooth the cross-boundary flow under the national security policy.
Earlier, the government received 27 expressions of interest for 10 sites within the park. Sun says most submissions came from local and mainland developers, and he believes the response will be even stronger when the sites are formally tendered. He did not rule out offering more than the initial 10 sites. Looking ahead, he said there will be bigger moves on land in Yunlong Reserve for the Science Park, where leading enterprises are expected to establish a national manufacturing base. Sun also said the government will pursue public-private partnerships and work to advance the Santin and Hetao projects in parallel. In Myanmar, voters went to the polls on Sunday for the opening phase of the country's first general election in 5 years. It is being held under the supervision of its military government while a civil war rages through much of the country. The military has been ruling Myanmar since February 2021, when the elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi was ousted. Nasbi Karim with more.
Yangon Sule Pagoda stands guard as voters file into a polling station to cast their ballots. This is the election the country's ruling generals say will return Myanmar to a multi-party democracy, almost 5 years after the military moved the government of Aung San Suu Kyi after her party's landslide win in 2020. With Myanmar mired in civil war and around 3.6 million people displaced, many are voting in the hope of a return to peace. Kin Mala, who left her village in central Mandalay to avoid the fighting, said voting is unavoidable. We are displaced people, so we have to vote so that we can go back to our village after voting, she said. Nine Win is voting for the first time, seeing this election as a chance for the will of the people to be decided. In the capital Naypyidaw, military leader Min Aung Hlaing cast his vote, avoiding the question of whether he wants to be president. I am a civil servant. I cannot say that I want to serve as president. I am not the leader of a political party, he said. There is a process for electing a president from parliament, only when it is convened. I think that is an appropriate time to speak. Critics argue that the results will lack legitimacy because major parties are excluded. The military-backed Union Solidarity and Development Party are expected to win. The 80-year-old Suu Kyi is serving a 27-year prison sentence on charges her supporters view as politically motivated. Her National League for Democracy was dissolved in 2023 after refusing to register under new military rules. An election protection law imposes heavy penalties and restrictions. One analyst says 73% of voters in 2020 cast ballots for parties that no longer exist. Voting is set for 3 phases. Sunday's first round is being held in 120 of Myanmar's 330 townships. The second round takes place on January 11th, followed by the third round on January 25th, with the final results expected a few days later. Nazri Karim, TVB News.
Thailand and Cambodia reached a ceasefire agreement yesterday over their border conflict. The foreign ministers of the two countries were invited to Yunnan to hold a trilateral talk with China over 2 consecutive days. Foreign Minister Wang Yi first met with Cambodian Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs Prak Sokhonn in the morning. Wang Yi also met with Thai Foreign Minister Sihasak Phuangketkeow in the afternoon. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said earlier that China is willing to carry out more comprehensive and specific communication with the two countries and continue to provide platforms and create conditions. The ceasefire deal between Thailand and Cambodia began at noon on Saturday. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will meet U.S. President Donald Trump in Florida on Sunday to try close out a peace agreement to end nearly 4 years of war with Russia. On his way to the U.S., Zelensky met Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, who pledged $2.5 billion in economic aid. Here's Nasfi Karim again.
A burst of a bright orange fireball as a projectile hits a building in the Ukrainian capital Kyiv. Authorities said Russia launched more than 500 drones along with missiles on Kyiv on Saturday in an attack that reportedly went on for hours. This said Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was en route to North America to meet Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney and U.S. President Donald Trump. During their meeting in Halifax, Carney said Ottawa will provide $2.5 billion in economic aid for Ukraine, in addition to its military support. He said Russia's latest attack highlights the need for allies to stand with Ukraine.
Under President Zelensky's leadership, we have the conditions, the possibility of a just and lasting peace. But that requires a willing Russia. And the barbarism that we saw overnight the attack on Kyiv shows just how important it is that we stand with Ukraine during this difficult time, and that we create the conditions for this just and lasting peace and a true reconstruction.
Zelensky said the attack showed that Russian President Vladimir Putin was a man of war.
This attack is, again, Russia's answer on our peace efforts, and it's really showed that Putin doesn't want peace, and we want peace, and he's the man of war, but he's afraid to speak about publicly. But we see these steps, and what we need to stop this war in any way.
Zelensky said the path to peace is twofold: pressure on Russia and strong support for Ukraine. These he is hoping to receive when he meets Trump at the US President's resort in West Palm Beach. Putin, meanwhile, launched similar accusations against Kyiv, citing Zelensky's refusal to give up territory in the Donbass, captured by Moscow during almost 4 years of war. Speaking at a meeting with top generals at an unknown location, Putin said if Kyiv authorities are not willing to end the matter peacefully, Russia will achieve all its goals by military means. Nazri Karim, TVB News.
And still ahead, New York's snowstorm causes chaos in the city and beyond. Taiwan emerges from a magnitude 7 earthquake. And an NGO helps teens find internships in different industries. Welcome back. Heavy snow has pummeled northeastern U.S. as over 1,000 flights face cancellations or delays during the busy travel period between Christmas and New Year holidays. A state of emergency has been declared for the states of New York and New Jersey. Danny Zhou reports.
New York City received over 10 centimeters of snow on Friday night into early Saturday in what could have been its biggest storm event in years, although the snow accumulation was slightly less than anticipated. The hardest hit place, central eastern Long Island, saw over 15 centimeters, while as much as 25 centimeters of snow were dumped in farther north in the Catskills. New York's 3 main airports, Newark Liberty International, John F. Kennedy International and LaGuardia, cautioned passengers that weather conditions could cause flight disruptions. Flight tracking service FlightAware indicated at least 1,500 flights were cancelled from Friday night. The skies were clearing quickly. Workers in red jumpsuits used shovels and snow blowers to clear the snow and ice-coated streets. For some tourists taking a holiday trip in Times Square, the scenery was a bit of a Christmas surprise.
The city's working pretty well to get all the roads salted and everything, so it's all right.
I think it was absolutely beautiful. We're from North Carolina, so it was great to come up to New York and see the snow.
Authorities have issued travel advisories warning the weather will cause dangerous road conditions and impact holiday travel, and urge drivers to avoid unnecessary trips and monitor conditions and road closures. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
A magnitude 7 earthquake struck off the coast of Yilan, Taiwan late last night, causing minor damage in the northern part of the island. Hong Kong's immigration department says it has not received any requests for help from Hong Kongers so far. The moment when the quake struck, surveillance cameras jolted violently. Railway services temporarily suspended, forcing some passengers to evacuate on foot along the tracks. This pedestrian bridge in New Taipei City saw large sections of tiles fall off after the strong tremor, while a 12-meter-long crack appeared on another road in the same district. At Terminal 2 of Taoyuan International Airport, ceiling panels fell and struck 2 passengers. No one was injured. The quake also led to power outages at more than 3,000 households in Yilan, while Taipei City received 39 reports of damage. Most have since been handled. This quake's epicenter is located off the coast of Yilan, and tremors were felt across much of Taiwan. According to local meteorological authorities, this is the island's strongest earthquake since the 921 or Chi-Chi earthquake in 1999 and the Hualien earthquake in April last year. Aftershocks of magnitude 5.5 or above may occur in the future. This Hong Konger living in Kaohsiung says there was about a 10-second early warning before the quake hit, and he was alerted over the phone. Some travel agencies say there are currently 6 tour groups in Taiwan involving more than 100 travelers, mainly in Taipei, and their itineraries have not been affected. Not waiting for universities, teens including the visually impaired dive into early career internships. This, as a nonprofit organization, has been offering programs for students aged 11 to 18 to intern at different companies to gain first-hand industry experience. The world may look different to these high school boys. They are learning to see and venture into the real world early on. A secondary 6 student now, James interned at a tech company over the summer holidays through the Young Founder School internship program, while being mentored by Meta's management Dan Neary.
Career opportunities for visually impaired students are usually incredibly rare. So I discovered that even with my visual impairment, I can actually do the same quality of work as my peers, and I use this confidence to initiate my own projects.
Projects culminated in a Braille transcription app, which streamlines a time-consuming process for blind students to work on math exercises. He also rolled out an open-source product which helps users optimize their social media feed, removing brain-rot content known to be trivial and repetitive, but also addictive in nature.
Give people an authentic experience that can help them create real human connections instead of just sending reels to each other like we always do.
Another beneficiary is Kin Chung, who interned for the Young Founder School and wishes to become a social worker in future.
Before, I always think that I'm a very bad person. I cannot finish all the tasks and everybody will think that I'm not good. But now, because I know that I can do that, I'm not that bad.
Among the mentors was cerebral palsy patient Jackie Wan.
If we can provide them with some minimal support, some workplace adjustment, they can usually function or perform their duties quite well in the workplace. If I can do that, the society can provide them with a chance, they can definitely shine.
Not every young person goes to university, but every single young person in the world has to have a chance to make an informed decision for themselves about what they want to do in their futures. But we make that possible. The level of self-belief that generates in our students is incredible.
Rolled out 4 years ago, the NGO's partnering companies for the 4 to 8 week internship programs include Morgan Stanley, Uber, and Visa. On average, 250 local students took part every year. The internship program has drawn more than 300 corporate and non-profit partners and is now eyeing ties with firms across the mainland and overseas, so students can gain first-hand experience across different fields and different cultures. The eastern section of the East Coast Boardwalk in North Point will open to the public at 6 a.m. on Monday. On Sunday, a few construction staff were seen carrying out some final work on the boardwalk. The eastern section, which includes a glass observatory deck and a pet-friendly area, will open to public 24 hours a day. Spanning some 2.2 kilometers underneath the island eastern corridor, the boardwalk consists of the eastern and western parts, connecting the North Point Promenade to Hoi Yu Street in Quarry Bay. The western section has been in use since January. In the U.S., the permanent Times Square Ball in New York City is getting ready for the new year with a crystal upgrade. And across the Big Pond, the Big Ben is also getting rigged up for the big night. Danny Zhou has more.
Workers were removing old pieces from the New Year's Eve ball that remains atop New York City's One Times Square year-round and replacing them with fresh Waterford crystals. The iconic ball's descent to signal the start of the new year has come a long way since its 1907 debut. Changing from the triangular-shaped crystals introduced in 1999, this makeover will feature 5,280 circular discs.
The design this year is based in a circular fashion, so it's a disc, which really represents infinity. So it's the idea of infinity, never-ending hope, always looking forward, innovation, looking ahead.
As the ball drops from the pole in the countdown, it is poised to light up with an America 250 design and turn red, white and blue to kick off celebrations of the nation's 250th anniversary. Meanwhile, in London, a team of clockmakers at the Palace of Westminster have been working to make sure that Britain's most famous clock, Big Ben, ticks accurately on New Year's Eve. This after the recent restoration work of the Great Clock of Westminster in Cumbria. The clockmakers said they would have rigged up all preparations the week before the New Year live broadcast.
We're at the top of the Elizabeth Tower, and I'm stood next to Big Ben, which is the biggest bell in the clock tower, one of 5. We'll be up here working on New Year's Eve, waiting for the fireworks to go off, and our job up here over New Year's Eve is to make sure that the first blow of Big Ben is exactly at midnight.
Danny Joe, TVB News.
And that's the news. Thank you for watching.